Hey guys, welcome back. You're watching Tafili Space, and here are the top 5 space news picks for the week. At number 5 this week, Rocket Lab launches into orbit. The American private space company, Rocket Lab, blasted off into space, taking with it 3 satellites. This is a major step for the company. They hope the successful launch will add confidence towards their mission to make small payload launches more affordable. The Electron rocket was launched from the company's facility on New Zealand's beautiful Mahai Peninsula. The rocket reached orbit for the first time, deploying 3 microsatellites and successfully testing Electron's orbital deployment systems. The Electron rocket is a new generation of small launch vehicles that are able to be cost-effective and put small satellites into orbit. Rocket Lab's goal is to make space accessible by providing relatively cheap launches to low Earth orbit. At number 4, US lawmakers hold hearing on Zuma. The secret satellite, codenamed Zuma, was launched last week on top of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket. Northrop Grumman, who built Zuma, has a portfolio of space assets it is currently working on. A major one being the $9 billion James Webb Telescope. House lawmakers are worried that other projects might end up sharing a similar fate. They are putting pressure on SpaceX and NASA officials on what exactly happened to the secret Zuma spacecraft. They are seeking accountability on the $1 billion Zuma program, since it was funded by US taxpayer money. It will be interesting to see how the loss of Zuma affects the discussions of what measures NASA is taking to assure accountability with its commercial partners. At number 3, Finnish president signs Space Act. A Finnish company successfully launched the country's first commercial satellite last week on board the Indian Space Agency's PSLV C-40 rocket. Finland's President Sauli Niinisto signed the country's first comprehensive space legislation. Finland has pledged 400 million euros into the European Space Agency's space programs within the 2013 and 2020 fiscal years. They plan on having open-source geographical information that the public has access to in order to drive competition. By doing this, they can raise the level of scientific research amongst the ESA and the world as a whole. Finland currently has 6 companies that manufacture satellite equipment. Their main focus is to respond to the growing demands of the Arctic. At number 2, NASA removes astronaut from launch schedule. Astronaut Jeanette Epps was scheduled to launch from the International Space Station in early June. She would have been the first African American to live on the International Space Station. Jeanette Epps completed her PhD in aerospace engineering in 2000. After graduating, she worked in a laboratory for 2 years before being recruited by the CIA. She worked as a technical intelligence officer for 7 years before being selected as a member of NASA's 2009 astronaut class. This past week, NASA announced it was pulling Epps off the mission, but did not disclose why. Usually, astronauts are removed from missions mostly for health reasons. She's being replaced by her backup, Dr. Serena Anoon Chancellor, a flight surgeon who spent more than 9 months in Russia supporting medical operations for the International Space Station crew members. Both were chosen as astronauts in 2009. At number 1 this week, the Secretary of Defense announces the 2018 National Defense Strategy. The U.S. plan could be simplified by 3 words: compete, deter, and win. When questioned by a reporter about the DoD's space influence, here's Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis's response.
This final question, how would the U.S. deter adversaries in space as space itself becomes more militarized?
Yeah, how do we deter in space? It's philosophically or basically in the same way that we would deter anyone else. Don't try it because we can do more damage to you than any benefit you could gain. So it comes down to that, but what that means is we've got to have capabilities to deny them what they want to achieve. In this regard, it's not just about what you might think of guns in space shooting each other. It can be nothing more than we have for every satellite up. We have 100 more this big that we could launch just as fast or taken out. By the way, we're going to take you down in the United Nations and we're going to get economic sanctions. In other words, there's a way to raise, this is when I mentioned expanding the competitive space. There's no nation that has a wider competitive space in terms of its moral or ethical or economic or military power than we can amass if we choose to use it wisely. And so in space, we will do our best to deter. We'll come up, I'm sure, with arms control agreements at some point, and we'll start getting this under control. But for right now, it's sizing up the problem and making certain, again, that our diplomats will be negotiating from a position of strength when they negotiate on that one.
With countries like China and Russia narrowing the technological gap, this new platform will help refocus the U.S. military towards an emphasis on the domain of space. That's all I have for this week. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments below, and I hope to see you guys next week.